10:4-6 et sec. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising in the Star Ledger, El Nuevo Coquí, Haiti Progrès, and Luisi Americano newspapers, and by distribution to administrative offices of the Newark Public Schools. A copy of this meeting notice was forwarded to City Hall for posting. This is a regular advisory board meeting Tuesday, August 24th, 2010. Mr. Jeffries.
Here.
Ms. King.
Here.
Mr. Lamore. Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Ms. Pintor.
Here.
Mr. Rivera.
Here.
Ms. Romero. Ms. Davis Spate. Ms. White.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Clark. We have our flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we'll have a presentation from School Wires. They've graciously come up from out of state to provide this presentation, so we agreed to move them to the beginning of the agenda. This is a very important initiative that the district is pursuing to revamp our website, to make it much more parent-friendly, community-friendly, to use it as a vehicle through which to get good information out to the community and to our stakeholders. So we can bring them up now. They'll provide an overview of what they've been working on over the last many months.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries. We wanted to begin by thanking you, Dr. Janey, and you, Mr. Jeffries, and your staff, your cabinet, and the executive team, and the members of the community for allowing us to be here this evening. We understand that this is the first meeting for the school year, and it's a very important meeting. And with that in mind, we prepared a very concise presentation for you this evening, because we know each minute of this meeting is precious to you. So with that in mind, we wanted to thank you very much for that. Let me begin by introducing myself. My name is Jeff Adams, and I am on the Client Success team. I'm the senior member of the Client Success team at School Wires. And also with me this evening is Marcia Brady. She's a member of our Client Success team as well. We are based out of State College, Pennsylvania, the home of the Nittany Lions. We usually find a few Penn State fans when we're up in this area, but we're very happy again to be with you this evening. We have just a very quick PowerPoint. I know it's kind of behind the crowd, but I'll try to share most of what's on the slides to keep you from having to turn around too much as we go through this very quickly for you this evening. What our goal is this evening is to let you know what our team at School Wires has been doing with Valerie and her team over the last few months. We've partnered, we decided, or Newark School District decided to partner with us back in May. And Marcia has been working with Valerie and her team over the last several months to build your website. And we want to give you a quick sneak peek of your website as well. Now, Valerie was very clear to us that she's going to be doing a full website demonstration to the full advisory board, and you'll have your chance to give your input. And it's kind of still in the formative stages right now, but we wanted to pull back the sheets just a little bit and show you some of the great work, that Valerie and her team have been doing. Just very briefly to let you know what we do at School Wires. This isn't meant to be a really long presentation on our company. We want to get right to your website, but just to inform you very briefly, we are completely focused on the K through 12 market, and we're not out marketing websites to other businesses. We work with about 1,200 districts over the country, and we've had the opportunity to work with several large implementations like Newark and places such as Pittsburgh, the Atlanta School District, Rochester, San Diego, and several other large districts. So we're experienced at working with districts such as yourself. And what our goal is to help the school district communicate with the community, with parents, give a communication tool to your teachers to communicate with you. Marcia and I came early this evening, and there were some parents and some community members that were here early on, and we know that your community is involved. We heard them going over the agenda and making some comments about it, and we want to give you a tool to communicate with them and give them a tool to communicate with them as well, and to reach out to your parents and your other community members. Just very quickly, we have a slide here to let you know that our company made the Inc. 500 list for several years. Our only purpose in sharing this with you is to let you know that we're a solid company, and we're going to be here with you for the long haul. There's a lot of people out there doing websites and offering technology, but we want you to be assured that we are an established company. As I said, we work with over 1,200 districts around the country, so we're committed to you for the long term throughout this project. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and ask my colleague Marcia to come up. She's going to give you some details about what we've been doing with Valerie and your team. And as far as the closing comments for my part of this, I just wanted to emphasize what a great team that Valerie has and the people that work with her. I've personally been involved in several of these large rollouts in other places like San Diego and Atlanta and Pittsburgh, and Valerie and her team are just top notch, and you should be very proud of them. And they've just been a pleasure and a joy to work with. But at this point I'm going to allow Marcia to take over, and I'm going to go back and we'll show you just a few of the things that we're working on your new site.
I think somebody said this was. Hello, everyone. My name is, as Jeff said, my name is Marcia Beatty. I'm a client success representative at School Wires. And I'm just going to take the next few minutes to talk about the partnership that we have at School Wires with the project team that I manage, and the partnership that we are working with as Jeff alluded to, that Valerie Merritt has her team together. And you know, I got to give kudos again to Valerie, because her team is just, we're rocking through this. You know, we're kind of ahead of schedule, and so we're going. So anyway, I wanted to point out this slide here regarding the old and new. And you can see up there that we have the old site challenges. And I want you to know that this is not information, or what you see up in the bullets is not information that I made up or Valerie's team made up. This is information that the district received from you as a community. They sent out a survey, received this information back, and these are the challenges that you faced on your current site. You know, and those being content heavy, difficult in finding the information, little focus on academics and student and their accomplishments, and also not appealing, and sometimes you're finding that the information is out of date. Well, based on those old, these challenges that you gave the district from your input, we set out a goal, and for the website, for the objectives that we're working with Valerie's team, is to make sure that the first thing is to facilitate communication. As Mr. Jeffries had alluded to, that the communication being across all stakeholders, community, parents, students, school board, and so on. So it's that two-way interaction. Again, we're going to be focusing on the website academic focus, highlighting the student accomplishments, and also district happenings. It's going to be very user-friendly, easy to navigate. You'll see that in just a moment. It's appealing, it's bright, it's colorful. Also, there's going to be a translation tool for those folks in the Hispanic, the Haitian, and Portuguese community. You're going to be able to pick a drop-down and pick the language of your choice and be able to translate it. So no more having to get your grandson or grandchild to come over and read it to you. And also technology savvy. It's going to enhance the technology, not only here at the district, but that you as the community members have. Whether you have a Mac or PC or so on, you're going to be able to access the site. So again, what the new website provides based on those objectives, accessible district information. Now some of this information that is up here, you already have on your current site, but it might be difficult to find. In the new website, you're going to be able to find it easy to navigate to find this information that is contained up here. The enterprise calendar. One of the things that we're doing within our solution that you can do is you can not only have a district calendar, but you can also have school calendars. And I want to mention that the first phase of this project is the district site, and then we're going to have another phase which is going to be all the school sites. So at the district calendar, you can not only showcase what's happening at the district, but you also can be showcasing what's happening at some of the schools. The connecting in the board members, it's going to be, as somebody mentioned to me, a friendly vehicle between the Newark School District and the board. As the board is the community, you know, they're the ones that are reaching out to you as the community, so it's going to be a friendly vehicle to connect everybody. Navigation benefits. And again, I'm going to show you those in a quick moment. As Jeff had alluded to, that we're just going to give you a sneak peek, show you what's underneath the cover, so to speak. You're going to see we're going to have some global icons. You'll be able to have those on all of your sites, whether it's a district or the school page. So no matter where you are, there's going to be consistency across the top, so you can get to information very quickly. There will be a site map, just like you have on your current site. Some of the areas that are visually highlighted, you're going to be able now to find announcements. Those announcements being like when graduation is, when school closings are. There's going to be also headlines and features. So, you know, if there's a student accomplishment or school won an award or the district, you're going to be able to find that information very quickly. Upcoming events, that comes off the calendar. So when the next school board meeting is, instead of going to the calendar, you'll just be able to see it right on the homepage. And then site shortcuts. You know, as working with Valerie's team, they came up with a list of some of the site shortcuts, those being school lunch menus. So now you don't have to go to the school sites. You're going to be able to click on this, and it's going to take you to that page. And then a broad selection of the content, meaning for the stakeholders. Again, parents, the community members, the students, and also alumni. So what have we done so far? So as Jeff had mentioned, our team, I manage the School Wires project team, and Valerie manages the Newark project team. We met starting in the middle of May, and here's where we come so far, as we have a three-phase approach: planning, executing, and go public. The planning phase is where we gathered your requirements, worked with the Newark project team, gathering the requirements, developing, or excuse me, designing the template, and that was the planning stage. That's completed. That was done by mid-July, or excuse me, mid-June. We're in the process right now of the executing. What's that? That's deploying the template, getting it ready. Content's being placed on the website as we speak. So we're in the process of the executing stage, and when that's all done, go public mid-September. So you'll be receiving some information on when you're going to have access to your new site. Now we're going to just do a quick demo, and I mean quick. I'm going to just tease you a little bit to show you. So one of the things that we're going to go to the home page first, and this is, as you can see, this was your old site. And if we go to the new School Wires site, as you can see at the top there, there's some global icons. And as Jeff, anywhere he is on the page, he can click that seal, the Newark Public Schools. And what that's going to do is take you back to the district homepage. Here's a look of your district homepage. As you can see, we have the site shortcuts there on the left-hand side. I talked about the school lunch menus. You're going to be able to click there. You see on the left-hand side, down here, upcoming events, that's where I talked about what's comes off the calendar, when the next school board meeting is, and so on. A little welcome to the site. And depending on the time of the year, there is going to be different information up there. And if you scroll down, there's where you're going to have your announcements. Maybe, as you can see here, first day of school, graduation, and so on. And then the current news. So here, school uniform information, and, you know, summer reading list, as you know, as it gets to the end of the school year. So this is the new look and feel of the home page. As you can see at the top here, there's these global icons I talked about. So if you want to find the calendar, you don't have to, you know, go fishing down in this area. You just go to the global icon on the calendar. And then the translation information is this pulled down in the top left-hand corner. As you can see there, we have Spanish, Arabic, but we make sure that we have the Portuguese, the Hispanic, and the Haitian. So again, you'll be able to translate. So let's go, we're just going to do a before and after. So let's go to your current site that you have, and we're going to go to the advisory board page. And this, how you got to this, you would have to go click on the left-hand side, and it's actually a document listing who the members are. Now, if you go to the new site of There's going to be a link at the top called Advisory Board, and then on the left-hand side, as you can see, it says Memories. And the first one happens to be Mr. Jeffries, and then there's his bio and information. As you can see then, Ms. King and so on. So there's going to be the list of the members, with their information. So that's a different look and feel from the old site to the new site. And one last thing I want to point out is another thing you can see at the top, we have parents, students, and communities. So now you're going to be able to find that information if you're a parent sitting at home and you're thinking the parent way. You click on the parent information, and now you're going to have a resource of information like parent resources, that maybe you have links to outside websites such as Family, Library Spot, and so on. So again, this is just a tickler, a little tease of what the website is. And if Jeff wants to get back to the home page, all he has to do is press that seal at the top. That's it for us at School Wires. Again, we want to thank everyone for allowing us to come here and present this. And I'm very excited that this is coming. Again, our goal and objective is for you guys to be successful in your communication with your website. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that presentation. Also, thank Valerie Merritt for her and her team's hard work on this over the summer. We appreciate that. And Dr. Jan, I think you want to say a couple words about how we're going to get some feedback on where this website is.
Yeah, staff members from the group that was just presenting talked about 3 phases: planning, execution, and going live sometime in September. It's going to be important not to go live unless we make sure we get a final look at the website to see how informative it's going to be and its design. So I've asked Valerie Merritt to organize a set of focus groups, focus group of parents, students, different employees, to come together and to get your reaction to the website before we actually go live. So that's going to be in the making, and Valerie, you will announce that accordingly when the focus groups will meet and where they'll be, and what the intent is of each of the focus groups, and how we'll take that input and fold it into a final run before we go live. I've also asked the Vice President of NJIT to loan us a number of high-powered students and faculty members who will come in throughout the year to take a look at the website and provide services at no cost to the school district to add value to the work that we're doing here. And they agreed. This was a meeting we just had yesterday. So I think we're positioned to do something very different and something much more friendly to the public than what we had before. And we want to make good on that promise by having the public give us the feedback that we need in order to make the changes that we can make now without any excuses.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Janey. I want to say a quick word about this room. It's obviously very tight in this room, and normally we have our public meetings at the schools. Our facilities aren't ready yet, and they will be ready as we start school next year. So that's why we're here versus being one in the school. So we apologize for that, for the cramped quarters. I want to say quickly in terms of the board chair's report, I wanted to report to the people that your board worked very hard over the summer. We had a retreat of 8 hours each day for 2 days over the summer. Over 16 hours we were together. We had a facilitator who works with a reform governance organization that talked about ways in which we can continue to refine and streamline our work so that we can really be focused on student achievement, ways in which we could think about restructuring our board committees so that we can be focused on student achievement, ways we can restructure our business meeting and our public meeting so that the work of the board is focused as much as possible on student achievement. In addition to the 2 8-hour days that we had over the summer, we have about 5.5 days over the upcoming academic year in retreat work that this board will be going through as well. And I think it's very important for folks to know that we're working very hard to position this district for return to local control. And more important than that, working very hard so we position the board to make sure we're doing everything we can to serve our kids. So over the next I think by the September meeting, we may have some recommendations. As we continue to go through the retreat sessions over the upcoming academic year, we'll have additional recommendations that will come back to the board, and the people can comment on about how we can streamline our work. With that said, we'll go to Dr. Janey's report, and we'll take it over from there.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries. We've got some presentations scheduled for this evening to give the community an update on where we stand now with respect to the school improvement grants and making sure that the money that's been allocated to the school district and to the schools specifically, we're going to get a return on that investment. So let me ask Mr. Gold to come forward and Mr. Leon. And as they're coming forward, let me just briefly say we're still in the midst of getting our schools ready. As Mr. Jeffries indicated, we contemplated going to Science Park in August, but it had a summer program there up until a week and a half ago, and they need to make every person available to clean the school, and that's why we're here this evening. We've been visiting schools, and on one of my visits, I shouldn't have been in a position to find this out. It should have been discovered by staff members, but I think only 1 out of 8 lights outside the school of Avon, where the playground is, was working. And I know Mr. Latner made a similar find with Belmont Runyon several months ago. It is up to the staff that we employ to make those findings and make those changes. I shouldn't have to walk into a situation in which the new principal or others tell me that the lights don't work, and whether it's our responsibility directly to fix those lights or it's PSE&G, it really doesn't matter, because we need to make sure the persons responsible do the job they're supposed to, and we don't end up with any kinds of accidents with respect to safety that could have been avoided. So we're making these rounds and doing spot checks throughout the district. We still have a couple of staffing issues in terms of vacancies. We hired about 23 new principals this year, which is more than most districts in the state of New Jersey. Ms. White and I, after schools, were able to review the candidates, groups of parents and teachers and others. We sat down and interviewed 2 or 3 candidates per school, and in some instances interviewed a candidate 2 or 3 times if he or she had become a finalist at a particular school or multiple schools. And that was about 80, 90 hours of time, but well worth it. And we have 23 new principals today. Let me not have Mr. Gold and Mr. Leon stand anymore. I will continue my briefing, but let you guys come forward and present.
Thank you, Superintendent Janey. Good evening, Advisory Chair, Vice Chair, executive staff, and all our advisory members, especially our community. It is my pleasure this evening to update you on 3 areas of ongoing school reform here in Newark Public Schools. And I will be addressing the state improvement grant recipients, the Global Village School Zone, and BRIC at Avon, Building Responsible, Independent, Creative Kids. Specifically, the 5 state improvement grant recipients and their principals are Dayton Elementary with Ron Carson, Malcolm X. Shabazz, Ms. Tamika Bachnight. She is one of the new principals that the superintendent referred to. Central High School, Roz Baraka. Newark Vocational High School, Deborah Mitchell DeBerry. Newark Innovation Academy, Stephen Peters. And Fast Track Success Academy, Dr. Donna Maribel. Both Newark Innovation Academy and Fast Track Success Academy are new to the portfolio of schools within Newark, for they are replacing what were formerly a series of programs known as Renaissance. These 5 state improvement grant recipient schools over the next 3 years are targeted to receive over $22 million in investment from the state, who is funneling school improvement grants from the federal government. To review, they submitted on April 30th. On June 17th, we received funding, and since June 17th, have been busily preparing to open transformed educational communities when our students return on September 2nd. 3 of these schools are of the transformation model, which is requiring a series of educational reforms from extended school days, reformed curriculum, and other relevant changes. And I'll speak to that general language in just a minute. One school is a restart school, which both required a change in principal and a change in 50% of the instructional staff. That is Malcolm X. Shabazz. Newark Innovation Academy and Fast Track Success Academy are of the restart model. That is why we have new schools and are closing down the former Renaissance program. These principals have been in 5 days of state training. The state has identified 3 network turnaround officers who will be working with us here in Newark. And we have been deeply engaged in the work of improving the educational environments. It is an incredibly difficult undertaking. And one of the most significant partners in this work is our instructional staff. And our legal department, in conjunction with our chief academic officer and the Office of Academic Services and the superintendent, have been engaged in prolonged and very difficult clarifying discussions with the Newark Teachers Union. But we hope very shortly to make the announcement that we have come to clarity and certainty of how we will engage together. For this is district-level reform. It is not individual schools who are operating outside of the district. This question of autonomy is directly connected to the question of accountability. And while the grants call for removing many of the constraints that have stood in the way of school reform, they call for the direct accountability of every instructional staff member. Autonomy is not secession. Autonomy is a different way of doing the business of educating Newark students. Establishing the framework of that is to be negotiated with MOUs and is to be demonstrated through changed behavior. In the same spirit, Central, as one of the SIG grants recipients, is also part of the work that we have talked about as a broader, bolder approach previously. When we finish the MOU with the Newark Teachers Union, we will then enter into discussion with them on the Global Village School Zone, which takes the 6 pre-K-8 feeder schools and Central High School as the recipients as an integrated pre-K through 12 comprehensive school reform addressing social services, economic development, education reform, and community involvement. That Global Village School Zone will, in addition, have an MOU with the NTU and with the principals. That has yet to be finalized. We again expect it to be done prior to the opening of school. And then we have one of the most innovative reforms, not only in Newark, but in the state, and it's actually beginning to draw some national attention, which is the trusting of demonstrated Newark educators with the design of a school. The state of New Jersey has now come up with a phrase for this called Achievement Academies. Newark had already put one in place by drawing together a conversation that the superintendent and the BRIC group had. We are very excited about the changes at Avon. Your presence there was a great demonstration of support, sir. I know that community is very excited. It will also require an MOU. And that brings us up to the past, from the past to the present. As we move from intention to implementation, we have to make sure that all of Newark Public Schools is aligned in support. I'd like Mr. Leone to talk about how we are moving forward.
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. President, members of the advisory board, and all members of the community. As Mr. Gohl indicated, this part of the presentation is specifically related to the significant improvement grant awards that we received. The Newark Public Schools earned $22 million in a 5-year plan that impacts 5 schools of the neighboring communities, Camden, Essex County Vocational School, Jersey City, Roselle, and Trenton share in the responsibility that we talk about when we say that there is a crossroads between the accountability factor and the autonomy that the principals are receiving. There is an important intersecting proposal that is before this board, that it is of extreme urgency, that you are completely aware. So much so that the New Jersey Department of Education called a very important meeting, of which OAS, the Office of Academic Services, was called, representing the Office of the Superintendent with the School Business Administrator, to actually review the work that the principals have been undertaking for the past 5 days in Mercer County. Those respective schools, as they pertain to the Newark Public Schools, will be meeting in a very important session tomorrow morning, actually in this exact room, where we will review this important intersection that will have many profound implications. As it relates to principal autonomy, we speak to the selection of staff, scheduling, budgeting, greater accountability for results as it relates to professional development, the services, as well as that of the providers. This board has, and will have before it, in September, a board resolution that will be under review by the superintendent, of which is in draft form currently, created by NJDOE, of which all of these neighboring districts will also share in the responsibility of not only reading, reviewing, and signing. We share that important aspects as it relates to recommendations to the State Department as well as to the district will result in some relaxing of regulations, or at least the recommendations are such. We are aware that we are at the footsteps of the start of school. As the new Deputy Commissioner indicated, the expectation with these new grants is that we expect massive changes in schools that are low performing. It is extremely important that this board is aware that while the board resolution is sometime later in September, the State Department of Education and the federal government expects changes starting on the 1st of September. We will deliver with that beginning tomorrow. We'll be meeting not only with the principals in the morning, but with the network turnaround officers that have been assigned by the State of New Jersey's Department of Education. You should also be very well aware that tomorrow evening, as the school day ends and our work day ends, there is an operational supports committee that we are establishing. This committee is of key members in the respective offices that we have here in the Newark Public Schools. The Office of Budget, Human Resources, Facilities, Office of Academic Services, Special Education, Legal, Purchasing, Finance, Security. Obviously, the principal and the respective schools, these NTOs, and our regional superintendents, all of these bodies will be called together tomorrow, starting a very important day, where we will focus and provide the assistance and support that these principals are defining as they implement these grants, of which we will be held accountable like never before.
Thank you, Mr. Gold. Mr. Leon, any questions from board members? I'm curious, either Mr. Gold or Mr. Leon. I mean, you talked about there being some challenges with the union, and if you can't talk about, understand that. You highlighted about the extent to which they relate to autonomy. Can you flesh that out? I mean, are there issues in terms of the extent to which the principals at these schools can select their own staff? I mean, I know these schools also have an extended day. I'm not sure if they also have an extended year, but I know on the table at least some of these schools have a proposal for an extended day. I'm just curious, what are the policy issues that are causing the most difficulty with the union?
In a packet that's been distributed to each board member for each of the programs and specific schools that I've mentioned, you have the current draft agreements with the NTU. They are not finalized, therefore they cannot be released to the public. Our general counsel has been very clear about it. I will say that the NTU has been a wonderful partner in 2 ways. One, they have challenged us to defend the interest of their membership, and they have had a very high expectation that we are clear about the definition, not in general, but very specifically. Secondly, they have demonstrated their commitment to education reform. They don't want to see business as usual defined as the same level of low student achievement. They want to find a path forward. And so by both challenging us and supporting us, and I would hope they would reflect that same perspective about us, I think that we're forming a new form of partnership. So both the draft MOUs as well as the specifics for each one are outlined in your packets.
Can I ask you this? Why do you think autonomy matters in terms of student achievement? Why is that something important that this district is seeking to pursue?
And the guidance on autonomy is actually written by the federal government, and I'm going to ask Ms. White to follow up here in just a second, but there is a belief that as many decisions as appropriate should be as close to the instruction as possible.
Good evening. Best practices in research talk about high-performing schools, and in high-performing schools, principals get to select their staff, design their program that works best for their students. It's the same tenor, even though it's a school improvement grant. So it takes away any obstacles in terms of what I do on a day-to-day basis. So as a principal, I received this school improvement grant. The autonomy is in designing, using best practices and research-based strategies, a program that will work for me, for my students, and will have the best outcomes. With autonomy, however, comes the shoulder of responsibility and accountability, because at the end of the day, what has been designed must work. So therefore, when we use the word autonomy, that's really where it is. If a high-performing school can have that level of choice, then if that's what works, and if a high-performing school utilizes best practices and research-based strategies, and that works, conversely, if I'm under a school improvement grant and I receive the dollars to be able to build a program, that should happen. But understanding that with that kind of autonomy comes greater scrutiny and greater accountability.
Thank you. Any other board members have any questions for Mr. Gold or Mr. Leone? Dr. J?
Yeah, I'd just like to weigh in on this principle of moving authority closer to schools. You know, it is the right thing to do if people understand how to make the right kind of decision. We have had situations here in Newark where instead of filling vacancies with some of the best pool of teachers that we had recruited, we have had in some situations schools that were hiring substitute long-term subs to fill vacancies. And they were friends or relatives or associates or some other affiliation at the school level. So we have to be mindful that there's a principle involved, a PLE involved, but it doesn't mean doing it willy-nilly at the expense of our children. Or it doesn't mean that HRS would allow some of the best recruited teachers to only go to certain kinds of schools. So we've got to make it very clear as to how we do our work and not get caught up in the bad past practices. So there's this, yes, and my dissertation was about this very subject of affording principals more authority in areas that make sense, but making sure it's done the right way for the right reasons. I just wanted to add that, Board Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Janey. Ms. Spade.
So in September, this will be started, and just for 5 schools?
The 5 schools are receiving the state improvement grant dollars. There are an additional 6 schools in the Global Village School Zone, and then Avon as the BRIC. Those are not funded with the state dollars.
Okay.
And our local Newark implementations of our own strategic plan. And Dr. Janey, we clearly articulate the values that you and Ms. White have said in the strategic plan about that earned autonomy and the demonstrated capacity to have wise decisions connected with the right to do it.
Okay, and just one more question, well, a couple more questions. I know it's elementary and high school that will have extended school time during the day. So exactly which schools is it? Is this 5 schools that you just gave?
Within your packet, and that's what's currently being negotiated with the NTUs, it will show you for each school. There is not a single approach used
Okay.
across all 5. Each community has a different implementation plan.
Okay, because I've been getting a lot of calls in the community. Well, my school will be here to 4:30, and I'm not sure exactly what's going on, so I just need more clarity.
It is all rumor until we have agreement with
Okay.
the NTU, and then we have already queued up the implementation using the Blackboard Connect program to reach out, letters to go to families. At that point, it will be clear.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
So do we know when we'll reach that agreement with NTU yet? Do we have a deadline?
Oh, we're well past our own internal deadline, but we certainly, Ms. Pollock, will you address that?
Yeah, I think we're just about there.
We just about there?
Just about there.
My other question is about the 2 alternative schools, the Fast Track and the Academy. Them 2 schools, what is the requirements for them students in them 2 schools?
There are 2 different types of students who are challenged at high school. One is those who are just looking for something different, who the standard comprehensive high school is not an engaging environment for them. Though that is what the Newark Innovation Academy is about. It in fact has 4 different types at 6 different locations. We have Diploma Plus, which is at Westside NAF. We have 3 different big picture programs. These use portfolios for assessment. They also do long-term projects for credit. We have the program at Essex County College for online concurrent associate's degree enrollment, and then the performance learning centers, which are an AM and a PM program at the Yes Center, which is mostly online learning.
So is there an age limit to any of these programs?
The students should be high school eligible.
High school eligible?
Right.
So these students, they will receive a high school diploma?
Correct. We are equating all students with the same expectations, though they may take a different path to get that diploma.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Gold? Ms. Ventura?
I just think it's a lot of information that we received to be able to digest this, and I'm sure quite a few of us were going to have questions, with regards. I know Mr. Spate was just saying that, like you said, until anything happens, we've been getting calls with regards to what's really going on. So I think after we review this, a few of us might definitely have some more questions with regards to what's going on and how far we are already with the union, so that when we do get those calls, we can tell the parents or community members the correct information. Thank you.
Right, absolutely. I think it'll be important too, Dr. Janey, as this gets finalized, for that to be quickly shared with the board, so that as we're getting bombarded with questions about these issues, we can all be on the same page and get good information out, and hopefully use our website, depending on when it's rolled out. Maybe our new beautiful website can be used as a way to efficiently get some of this information out also. Okay, so we'll have Mr. Leon now will provide an update on the innovation grant. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gold. Thank you very much.
All of you have a manila folder. Any of you may recall last week at the business meeting, I did share with you some of the work that the Children's Literacy Initiative has done in Philadelphia. The first document that you can reference is actually some research from OMG. It is a 3-page document that will talk about the research that I did reference. There's a 2-page green document. That is the actual proposal that the Children's Literacy Initiative did move forward with the I-3 grant. The I-3 grant, as the thickest document that is color-coded in blue and yellow indicates, is a grant that is investing in innovation. That fund provided this grant money to applicants with a record of improving student achievement in order to expand the implementation of and investment in innovative practices that are demonstrated to have an impact on improving student achievement or student growth for high-need students, and 2, for promoting school readiness, closing achievement gaps, decreasing dropout rates, increasing high school graduation rates, and improving teacher and school leader effectiveness. I advised you, the board that in the late 90s, the Children's Literacy Initiative was working in individual schools by choice of principals that actually opted to have the Children's Literacy Initiative work in their programs. And certain schools rolled out the Children's Literacy Initiative, which is evident today in some of the high student achievement in our schools. The plan is to roll out the implementation of this teaching strategy to third graders in year 1, to kindergartners and first graders in year 2, to second year in grade 3, so that by the end of the third year, the schools that are receiving this treatment will have in each one of the grades, in kindergarten, in first grade, in second grade, and in third grade, not only trained teachers in the Children's Literacy Initiative, but a model in each grade. The difference is this. In the report that came out of Philadelphia, where Children's Literacy Initiative is based, there were schools that all of the teachers in grades kindergarten to 3 were trained in this model initiative called Children's Literacy Initiative, in practices on how to teach literature to students. If you take the area where the audience is today, and to you, the chairman's left, if all of these were teachers trained in the Children's Literacy Initiative, and comparable, the group of teachers to the chairman's right are all teachers that were also trained in the Children's Literacy Initiative. But in these schools here, there was a model teacher in each grade, a model teacher in kindergarten, a model teacher in first, in second, and in third. The research shows the following. All of the teachers were trained in CLI, but these groups of teachers have a model in each grade. The data shows the following. 11% of economically disadvantaged children outperformed their counterparts. 13% of African American students that had a model teacher in each of the respective grades in comparison to the same teachers who received the training. 13% of the African American children outperformed their counterparts. And in the same study, in the same situation, where there was a model teacher in each grade, where comparable staffs received the same training, and the only difference was that there was a model teacher in each grade in one school versus no model in the other, the research showed that 14% of the Latino children outperformed their counterparts. Ladies and gentlemen, 13.5% of the children of color in schools where a model CLI teacher was in the respective grade outperformed their counterparts within a 2-year time period. The problem is this. In order to do such a grant, in the Newark Public Schools, grades K to 3, millions and millions of dollars, about 10 million or so. The I-3 grant, which I referenced at the start, the Newark Public Schools did not qualify to receive the grant because you had to be out in AYP demonstrating performance for 2 years running. So as a district, we did not qualify. However, the Children's Literacy Initiative out of Philadelphia, they could partner with school districts upon their choosing. And they chose. They chose 4 school districts. They chose Camden. They chose Philadelphia. They chose Chicago. And as I reported last week, they chose the Newark Public Schools. Of the $23 million that they received, the Newark Public Schools will be receiving $13 million or so of those dollars to begin implementation September of this school year. I also reported out, as I indicated to the superintendent and in our session prior to the start of this meeting, the Children's Literacy Initiative in grades K to 3, implemented as it was designed, and how it started in the district in the late 90s and changed over time. We will adhere to the precepts that define the study in Philadelphia. And I share with you that in 2 years' time, you will begin to see the work that was distinguishing this school district in the 1950s in this nation.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. Any questions for Mr. Leon about CLI? Real quick, Ms. Leon, will this be rolled out district-wide, K through 3, or certain schools?
That's a good question. The study has 32 schools in it. There will be 16 schools that are receiving the treatment. The grant calls that in a 3-year time period, the remaining 16 schools can begin to receive the treatment. So think about it. In year 1, there are 16 schools that are in the treatment. There's one model teacher in every third grade, in every third grade of each of the 16 schools. So we will go from 14 models that we have in the Newark Public Schools, that's the green sheet that you have in front of you, to 30 models starting in September. So there are 16 teachers that we're adding. The following year, we're adding 32 teachers. In year 3, at the start, we're adding another group of 16. So we have 14 currently. We are adding 16 in year 1, that's 30. We are adding 32 in year 2, that's 62. And then we will add another 16 at the start of the 3rd year. The concept there of establishing a model in each of the grades, while this is only work in K to 3, we will be utilizing the same exact example of creating a grade level chairperson in each grade that is a teacher throughout the grades, even through high school. The practice that we received the grant, of which we don't have in all of the rest of the schools necessarily, we will model the same kind of work that has resulted in such dramatic test scores for children that look like the children in our schools.
Okay, great. Any questions for Mr. Leon about that?
Is there a
Vice Chair?
possibility in the future that the district can apply for the grant, their own grant in the future?
That's a good question, Madam Vice Chair. Yes, part of what anyone in the audience that knows of any private funders that, in fact, the district, they have work, like Prudential is assisting us greatly in this partnership currently, Victoria Foundation as well. That these are the types of initiatives that we would definitely want to mirror throughout all of our schools. And we're going to work hard strategically in doing that.
Mr. Leon, how does this grant opportunity avoid the long-standing criticism of urban education in which there's been pockets of excellence and they grow no further than certain sections of various cities?
In the late 90s, in this school district, and I speak from example as being a principal in 1997, the option was, if you would like to have the Children's Literacy Initiative in your school, you then could opt to be a part of it. It was open. The invitation was an open one. And unfortunately, sometimes when you invite somebody to a party, some people don't show up. And at this dance, what we see and what will be seen, what we see, Abington, Ann Street, Mount Vernon, regardless of the zip code of the children, regardless of what they look like, that our children, when challenged properly by a qualified teacher in the classroom, not a highly qualified, but a qualified teacher in the classroom, what we get are the results of which this report out of OMG speaks to. We have a tendency to opt not to. This grant does a couple of things. First, the professional development that is the component that the principals are going to receive will be, Philadelphia didn't even do it. We will. We will not only establish the criteria of how the principals receive their professional development and it gets rolled out. Part of the work that we want to do is to influence Camden and Philadelphia and Chicago public schools. Because the more examples that we have of urban school districts that are modeling excellence, then in fact we have power by numbers. In 3 years' time, we will have approximately 80 teachers that are models of excellence. There's a general tendency to be afraid of being the model. Well, here's the research that shows that when you have the model, children of color in particular outperform their counterparts in astounding numbers. So the professional development piece that the principals will receive will be completely unique in this grant. Also, the professional development hours that the teachers will receive will be extremely profound. There's research that shows that 300 hours of professional development is in fact that which is consistent with a teacher being the type of model teacher regardless of a classroom we have. We're demonstrating examples of that, not to be off topic, with the Progressive Science Initiative that we began last school year here in the district, where teachers are receiving 300 hours of professional development hours. We will model the same with the Children's Literacy Initiative. There's a component for parents. And as the first teachers of the babies that we are entrusted to take care of in our schools, the role that the parents play and the type of workshops that they will have, that if they don't exist today, I share with you that part of the work with CLI will be to create workshops in the evenings, during the day, so that the parents can be a better support for the work that the teachers will learn to do first, learn to replicate, and learn from each other. The work here is about not a teacher going at it alone, but that a teacher works with a team of teachers, and that the team of teachers puts pressure on each other to provide assistance and support so that the students achieve. All of that speaks to the culture that comes with the grant.
Thank you, Mr. Leon. I just want to make sure I'm clear. So the bottom line is, over the 3 years, this will be provided to kids K through 3 in 32 schools in the district?
There are 32 schools that are in the grant. 16 receive the treatment. 16 of the 32. 16 are the study.
Okay, so 16 schools will receive the enhanced services treatment through this program.
That's correct.
Now, how is the district going to select those 16 schools?
The issue of the selection, first of all, AIR, and I think some of that is in the folder that I prepared for the board. The actual selection of the 32, we didn't have a say at all. It's all by lottery. And I've doubted this, to be perfectly honest with you, understanding our community, living in the community, and being confused by certain things. This is by lottery. The 16 of the 32 schools that are selected are by lottery. There are schools that are not allowed to be in the grant at all because they contain 14 models. We not only have 14 model teachers in our school district right now, we have hundreds of teachers that have been trained. Some of these teachers received their training as long as I was a principal in the elementary school over 10 years ago, and they have not received professional development since. Some of them have tainted the work of the study. After year 3, the first target will be the other 16 schools. So in year 3, we will be impacting 32, and meanwhile, we will be working and making some changes from pre-K through 3rd grade in all of the schools. So there are some parallel lines that we're walking. We have to be careful so that we don't mess up the $13 million that we are receiving here, because that's the last thing that we need to do. But we will make every exerted effort to make sure that the schools that need to move simultaneously so that no school gets left behind.
Last question I have is, have we chosen the 16 yet, or that hasn't?
No, that's actually done through AIR, and that will be before us within the next month or so.
Thank you. This is very exciting. Mr. Leon, Dr. Janey. Any other questions for Mr. Leon about that?
Yes.
Vice Chair.
Then, like the chair said, it is very exciting. I think the district, sorry. As I was saying, this is very exciting, and I want to thank the district for what they're doing, and especially getting these grants. But I know the provider of these grants will be monitoring, watching. Do we have any in-house monitoring of the progress so we can ensure the success that how often will we be monitoring?
It's important that the board is aware that this money is being scrutinized very carefully, just like the presentation that Mr. Gold spoke of at the start. AIR will be actually auditing this work, and I mean, there will be so much documentation that we will need to be on top of. We will have in the Office of Academic Services 2 of our supervisors that will be working in not only the roll out of this as it relates to the work with the teachers, but as well as the work that the principals and the assistants and support that they will need to carry out the work that is before them. Specific to your question, the Office of Policy Planning, Research, and Assessment, that executive director and all of the research scientists will in fact be responsible for assisting us in monitoring and auditing and requiring great scrutiny on our part to make sure that all of the work that we are doing is consistent with the only mission that we are about in this school district, which is student achievement.
Thank you so much.